Hello and welcome to our live telephone town hall meeting. Thanks so much for being on this City of Arlington Tele-Town Hall. We'll be getting started in just a minute here. I see some of you dialed in early on our inbound participant line. Thanks so much for being on. We'll get started in a few minutes here. We're going to be hearing from Mayor Jeff Williams first. He'll outline the topics for the call and which speakers he has a guest panel that he's assembled to help address some of the topics we'll be discussing and also to answer any questions that our residents may have. So if you already have a question in mind that you'd like to ask of the mayor, the police chief, city manager, or the fire chief, they're all here on the line to answer those questions. We'll be going for the next hour, and you'll have an opportunity to ask your question live. You can do that by pressing 0 on your phone, submitting your question to an operator, and then you'll have an opportunity again to ask your question live of the mayor, city manager, fire chief, and or police chief. That's our panel here today to answer your questions and to provide you with updates. As you're listening, I do encourage you to think about questions you'd like to submit for Q&A. As soon as you have a question you want to submit, please press 0 on your phone. You can either ask your question live in the forum, and we'll get you an answer, or if you're not comfortable asking your question live, it's fine if you want to press 0, submit that question, and then just let your operator know that you want me to read your question over the air instead. Whatever's more comfortable for you. Either way, press 0 to submit your question, and we'll gladly take your questions for the rest of our hour here. Again, we'll be turning it over to the mayor in just a moment. He'll have some opening thoughts, and then we'll be taking your questions. And again, we encourage you to submit those questions by pressing 0 on your phone. For those of you listening in our Spanish simulcast and in our Vietnamese simulcast, you're welcome to submit questions as well by pressing 0 on your phone, speaking to an operator, giving them your questions, and I'm happy to read your questions over the air here and get an answer from the mayor, the city manager, the fire chief, and or the police chief. Again, all here to answer your questions tonight. So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started in 30 seconds. For those of you who have just joined, I'm going to reiterate how you can participate in our live Tele-Town Hall today. Welcome to the City of Arlington Telephone Town Hall meeting. If you have a question in mind already for the Q&A portion of our forum, we'll spend most of our time on Q&A, and you can submit a question by pressing 0 on your phone. If you're not comfortable asking your question live, you should still press 0, still give that question to one of our operators, and then you can let them know if you'd like the moderator to read your question over the air instead of having you ask it live. Whatever's more comfortable for you, we'd like to take as many questions as we can in the time that we have. Again, we'll hear from the mayor in a moment here, and he'll be taking on some opening comments, and then we'll go right into Q&A. So if you have a question, submit it by pressing 0. One more opportunity for you. If you'd like to be kept updated by the city moving forward via email, press 7 on your phone. Speak to an operator, give them your email address, and we'll be sure to keep you updated electronically moving forward. So again, if you'd like to be kept updated via email, we can keep you updated. If you press 7 on your phone, give your email address to one of our operators, and the city will keep you updated on the issues that affect you. So once more, thank you so much for joining the City of Arlington Telephone Town Hall meeting. We'll go ahead and kick it off now. Remember, you can press 0 to submit a question at any time, ask it live, or let your operator know if you want me to read your question instead. Let's kick off this live telephone town hall meeting by turning it over to your mayor, Jeff Williams. Go ahead, please, Mayor.
Good evening and welcome to this Tele-Town Hall meeting. I'm Mayor Jeff Williams, and usually we conduct Tele-Town Hall meetings in individual council member districts and open topics up to anything on the minds of our residents. Well, we have two major topics impacting our community right now. The COVID-19 pandemic and the issue of police brutality that has been highlighted recently in tragic incidents in Minneapolis and Atlanta. It has resulted in nationwide protests demanding a stop to racism in our country, particularly in policing. Because these topics are so important and so many of you are concerned about them, we've gone citywide with this Tele-Town Hall to address your concerns about both issues. I've assembled the top experts in our city to answer your questions. Joining me are our fire chief, who oversees our emergency operations center, Don Krausen, our interim police chief, Jaime Ayala, city manager, Trey Yelverton, Michael Jacobson, the president and CEO of the Greater Arlington Chamber of Commerce. Now, in getting started here on the questions, I've had a question that has been coming from many residents, and Ms. Joanne Moore actually just asked me to ask this question, Chief, and that is, the nursing homes and the senior living facilities have not been allowing visitors in. Why is this, and who is making those decisions for each one of those facilities?
Sure, Mayor. This is Don Krausen, Fire Chief, and I think the answer to the question lies in the Governor's office. It's a directive from the state. Clearly, the nursing home and the assisted living facilities are among our most vulnerable locations regarding the COVID virus issue. In fact, here in Arlington, nursing homes have been almost 40% of our fatalities. Of the 27 fatalities in Arlington, they represent 40%. And for us, it's the most vulnerable to the virus. When the virus is introduced into a nursing home, it can lead to devastating effects, and that's why it is key that we keep these facilities protected. The most vulnerable among us live there, and so we're doing everything we can to keep these folks isolated and protected from the virus. It's while the virus may not affect the younger person personally, they can carry it into a facility. In fact, that happened here recently within the last few weeks here in Arlington. And unfortunately, because of that, we had a number of fatalities and positive cases resulting from an introduction of the virus into a facility. So it's a very sensitive and critical issue that we protect our most vulnerable, and the governor and Dr. Hellestad and the rest of the public health community sees it as a major priority, and it is a priority, and that's the reason why visitation to these facilities are rather limited. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Chief. And so you can see that one of the most important things that can happen now with them not being able to have visitors either in senior living or the assisted living or the nursing homes, it's so important to make those phone calls, to try to set up the opportunity for FaceTime or Zoom calls. And then I visited with a friend today who had actually arranged to be able to go to the window and to be able to do that. But they very much so, your family and friends that are in the nursing homes or senior living need you still. So it's not near as good as being in person, but we've got to take care of their physical well-being, but we need your help in trying to take care of the mental health by still reaching out to them, even though you physically can't be in the room itself. So with that, Ian, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And then thank you, everybody, for joining our forum. We've already got several questions in the queue, so thanks to those of you who submitted those. We'll start taking those right away. For those of you who may have just joined us, if you have a question you'd like to submit for the mayor, the city manager, fire chief, and police chief, that's our panel today, and you can press 0 to submit those questions to an operator. You can either ask them live or let your operator know you want me to read them over the air instead. We've got our first live question coming from Antoine on the UTA campus. Antoine, thanks for joining us. What's your question?
Hi. With the current uprisings due to social injustice in this country, what is your agenda to address the issue specifically for the Black community? Not communities of color, not minorities, but specifically Black Americans. And also, what are your views on reparations to Black Americans for slavery and 400 years of systemic oppression and genocide?
Thank you, Antoine. Mayor, who should we go to for that one?
I'll begin it, and then I'd like to turn it over to the chief there to fill in, because there's so much to this question. And of course, right now, our city is on a full mission here to work on combating racial discrimination in all areas there of life here in Arlington. The murder of George Floyd was so graphic, and I believe it really opened the door for us to really make some major improvements. And so consequently, our council has already started work on review of all of our practices. Our chief, and I'll let him talk about it, has already been to work on trying to improve and try to eliminate as much as we can and actually reduce and eliminate any chance for things like happened in Minneapolis from happening here. But we are a city that cares very much for all of our citizens, and especially our Black Americans. And we feel, and when I say we, the leadership of our city, myself, the council, our city manager, our police chief, we all feel a deep sense of responsibility, and also the fact that this is a time for us to step through and make change so that we can truly make a difference here for each one of our Black Americans that are citizens here in our community. So with that, Chief, you want to share with them some of the things that you've already done?
Yes, Mayor. So Antoine Jaime Ayala, the current interim police chief. I want to share with you that we absolutely recognize that racism exists across America, and in Arlington, we know that there are segments of racism that we have to recognize and combat. And from a police perspective, we have begun to review our policies on force, our engagement opportunities, and we have a really good police department that has strong community engagement, but we need to do better than we're already doing in reaching segments of our community that don't feel comfortable in engaging with us in conversation. And since the George Floyd incident occurred, we have participated on a number of panels in alignment with some of our churches and our pastors so that we can start having the discussions and review what it is we're doing and where we need to be to hear those that aren't being heard. We have a really robust training program in culture diversity, in implicit bias, in fair and impartial policing, and I can go on down the line of all of the segments of training we have, but we know it's not enough, and we know we need to continue to listen to those that we have not had the opportunity to engage before. And so I encourage our members of our Black community to reach out and engage the police department so we can form new relationships and new partnerships and have dialogue as to what is occurring and perhaps changes that we need to make.
Thank you again for the answers to the question. Antoine, thank you so much for being on our forum, and thank you for submitting that question. We're going to go right to our next question, and thank you again for everybody who's submitting these. We'll be taking them for the rest of our hour here. We've got our next one coming live from Tanya. Tanya, thank you for being a part of our forum. What's your question for us?
Yes, I have a question. Mayor, are you going to follow the guidelines of Dallas, where Mayor Jenkins is trying to get make the mask mandatory? Are you going to try to do that for Arlington?
Well, you probably read where we have asked the governor. The governor makes that decision, and we have asked the governor to allow local entities or local cities to be able to make that decision for it. Here in Arlington, we are encouraging and recommending the use of masks. It has been proven an effective tool to combat the virus. And right now, we're trying to go forward with reopening our businesses. And it's so important that we provide that opportunity for our people to be able to make a living and provide for their families. So we are asking that please wear the mask, but we do not have that authority. And then also something else, Tanya, that I think is real important. I think that our citizens have got to encourage their friends and neighbors there when they're out with people to wear the mask. That's going to be much more effective than any mandatory requirement that we issued, and certainly we don't have that authority now. And so let's please spread the word, and we are going to double our efforts to get the word out on practicing our mask, our social distancing, and hygiene, because it has been paying off for us, and we want it to continue to, but the virus is still here. It is not gone, and we have got to do our part in fighting this virus.
Thank you again. Appreciate the answer. Thanks so much, Tanya, for your question. We've got our next one coming here from Kirk. Kirk, thanks for waiting. What's the question?
Hi. Well, my question kind of concerns what measures we're thinking about taking here in the coming weeks. Right now, we're seeing the highest hospitalization rates, particularly in the last 3 days, and that looks pretty closely like it correlates to the opening of restaurants a couple weeks ago. In addition, in the next few weeks, we will in all likelihood be seeing a further rise based on libraries and bars reopening. Texas is reaching an all-time high of infection rates, one of the highest in the nation. And I think here in Arlington, we need to do everything we can to lower infection rates and deaths. And add even more pressure to this, Governor Abbott will now have students be expected to return to classes come this fall. With rising infection rates, at what point do we consider not opening Six Flags as a tourist destination and further increase lockdown measures? Are we thinking about that right now?
Thank you, Kirk. Mayor, who would you like to take on that question from Kirk?
Sure, I'll start here. This is Mayor Williams. Kirk, basically Six Flags has been working the last few months. Back when this pandemic actually really shut everything down, they began working on a plan to be able to reopen and not spread the virus. And it is a very detailed plan that has been reviewed not only by our local officials, but also county and the state there. So they have worked hard not to have a good plan to not be spreading the virus. Now, as far as the infection rate, I think that needs to go right over to our Chief Krause.
Thank you, Mayor. Kirk, you're correct. Our positive cases are increasing across North Texas, partially because we're doing a lot more testing. We can see the virus more clearly. What is interesting is our hospitalization rate is only growing minimally, but it is growing. What is different now is that the society is open almost fully as compared to where we were 90 days ago when we were closed down. And our hospitalization rate is not that much more, but yet it is increased. Regarding Six Flags, I am aware of their plans. They have done significant planning on how to protect their customers. The grocery store model taught us a lot in the beginning, that you could run a business if you took certain precautions. The grocery stores have operated since the very beginning, and we didn't see any increase in positive rates based on that issue. We believe that if Six Flags follows its plan and carefully ensures that its patrons are safe and they follow the procedures, and certainly your fire department will be watching them also, making sure that's occurring, that they could conduct a reasonable level of business out there without impacting the spread of the virus significantly. Thanks for your question.
Appreciate the answer. Thanks for the question, Kirk. And we've got Kenneth coming up next. Kenneth, thank you for waiting, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Kirk pretty well hit my topics right on the nose. My concern is on the coronavirus. I keep saying, as everybody else in the news, the increase day after day after day of cases. Yet I'm seeing more and more relaxing of the safeguards to include opening of restaurants and so on. I keep hearing encouraging people to wash their hands, wear masks. It's not happening. It is not happening. All you have to do is go out and see that. Waiting for the governor to give directions, I don't understand that when companies like Costco require members to wear a mask if they shop there. Lastly, my wife and I went to a restaurant last week. Their website, very encouraging. Customers must wear a mask until they sit down. My wife and I walk in. We were the only two customers wearing a mask. When I asked the cashier, am I supposed to wear a mask? I got a look like, well, it's up to you. There needs to be some kind of enforcement a little tighter than recommendations.
Great. Thank you, Kenneth. Chief Krause, would you like to take that concern on for Kenneth?
Certainly, Kenneth. I understand your concerns. I think we're all concerned about the spread of the virus, but I think there's also an economic reality that the community needs to address too. So we're trying to make the two issues coexist to the best extent that we can. We've done a lot of planning, a lot of education. We've worked closely with the business community, and we believe that most of the businesses in Arlington are doing their part. I think for you personally, if you have a concern, if you find yourself in an environment where you don't feel like you're safe, that you not visit that environment, or that you put a mask or a face covering on to protect yourself. These efforts here are really meant to help stymie the virus, and it's personal responsibility. We're asking the business community, and we're visiting them with some regularity to ensure that their facilities are operating in a COVID-19 compliant environment. And occasionally we're asked to visit. We'll make a visit. But if you find yourself at a facility and you don't like what you're seeing, don't hesitate to give us a call, and we'll go out there and take a look at it. But we think right now, from what we're seeing based on our numbers and our metrics, that the business community and the community at large is doing a very good job in addressing the spread to the extent that they can. Certainly there are some outliers, but thank you for the question.
Thank you. Appreciate the answer. And again, thank you for your question, Kenneth. We're going to go to our next one from Janice, and she's in North Arlington. She's asked me to read her question. She's wanting to know, are we still doing the antibody testing? If so, is it reliable? Why would they charge seniors who are on Medicare? It's over $100, and we're wondering why we can't get it and have Medicare cover it. So that was from Janice. Who would like to take on that question?
This is Don Krause, the fire chief. I'll try to take that answer on. Right now, the city of Arlington is not doing antibody testing. In fact, there's been so many antibody tests out on the market that the FDA has had to step in because there's been a problem with antibody testing. The FDA has approved 1 or 2 antibody tests. In fact, if you give blood, you can have an antibody test done. But as far as the Medicare issue, I can't answer that question directly. What we do here at Arlington, we do something that's known as a PCR test, where we're actually looking from a DNA perspective for the virus. So your best hope would be to reach out to your medical provider and see if they provide that, or to get blood, and you can get a free antibody test through the Red Cross or Carter or whoever's doing the transaction with you. Thanks for the question.
Appreciate you. Thank you for the question, Janice, and thank you, Chief Krausen, for the answer. We've got our next question coming here from Adrienne, who's also asked me to read it. Happy to do that for her. She's asking, my concern is I've lost some income. I'm retired and disabled, behind on my rent. Have they removed the reprieve for getting evicted? Where could I possibly get some assistance? That one's from Adrienne. I think we'll go to Jennifer Wickman, our Assistant City Manager, for the answer to that one. Jennifer?
Thanks, absolutely. So for Adrienne and anyone else on the call who might be having trouble with their rent because of maybe a job loss or some other recent hardship, please go to our Arlington Housing Authority website, which is arlingtonhousing.us. And there's a green button that says Arlington Cares. If you click on that, we are currently we're taking applications for rental assistance. And that is something our staff will process, and we'll work with your landlord to get that paid for you. That's money we've received from the federal government. And we're also, Tarrant County is working on a similar program. But if you just come to the Arlington website and apply, we'll be able to help you out and get you that assistance, plus perhaps connect it with some other assistance that we know of for utilities and other things that can help you make it through this tough time. So I hope Adrienne's able to connect to the website. Again, that's arlingtonhousing.us.
Perfect. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate the answer, and thanks so much for the question. We'll go to our next question from Danita. She's also asked me to read it. Happy to do that. Danita is wondering, I'm a grandmother, and I pick up my grandkids from elementary school in Beckham. Are there going to be changes to school schedules this year because of COVID? Thank you, Danita, for the question. We'll go to Chief Krausen for the answer.
This is Mayor Williams. We're here. We do not have an Arlington ISD official here, and let me just share with you that they right now are doing a lot of planning there, and I would encourage you to call them, but I think they will have answers shortly. But they are working very diligently right now and working on that. And yes, they are working to ensure the safety of our students and to work out all of the various challenges that have never been presented before. So if you'll be patient there with our school district, because we have not had a pandemic in 100 years. And so there are a lot of things to be thinking about, and certainly they have been working on it. So I would encourage you to call whichever one of the school districts or the private schools that your child attends there and consult them.
Much appreciated, Mayor. Thank you for the answer. Thanks so much for that question. Reminder, many of you are still waiting for questions. You pressed 0. We apologize for the queue, but we will get to your question. Just hang tight. We'll remind you that if you wanted to give us your email address to get updates, you can do that by pressing 7 on your phone. Again, press 7 if you'd like to get email updates from the City of Arlington moving forward on all of these topics that we've been discussing tonight. We're going to go to our next question. This comes from our Spanish simulcast audience from Joanna. She's asking, where can I get tested for COVID? And I think Chief Krausen's probably the right one to answer that question.
Sure. Joanna, the best place to get tested right now is Park Plaza, the shopping center at Parkville in New York. In fact, we'll be testing there tomorrow. You can walk up and be tested. We'll be testing, in fact, today we tested 250 people today. We're testing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And next week also, the testing site is also open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Hours are 10 to 5, and you can register at the Tarrant County Public Health website, or you can simply just walk up and be tested. We're spending a lot of time in the 76010 zip code because we believe that's an area that will do the most good in. So New York and Park Road, Park Plaza Shopping Center. See you there. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thanks so much. We'll get another one up here right away. We've got another live one from Leanne. Hey, Leanne, thanks so much for waiting. What's your question for us?
I was wondering if they have a date set that they're going to decide what they're going to do about school opening.
Okay, thank you, Leanne. Mayor, can you take that?
Yeah, so they are working on the start date of school there, but they have not settled in on that yet. But you can continue to check with the schools, and because they are working on that diligently right now.
Got it. Thank you much. We've got our next one coming here from Barbara. Hey, Barbara, you're live. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, my concern is mainly around what I'm hearing from the other people about the safety precautions for the COVID virus. And I am seeing that it's pretty much you decide what you want to do, whether you want your employees with masks or not. Just went into a restaurant and, well, we didn't go in. We went to the drive-thru safely. The person that took the money and the person that gave us our food, neither one of them had masks. I find that just very, very scary. Is there any way that we can adopt a set rule for all businesses, not just willy-nilly, where they decide themselves?
Thank you, Barbara. I believe we'll go to Michael Jacobson, the Chamber President, for an answer to this one.
Thank you for that question. And you know, right now there is not a requirement to wear masks. The Chamber has been and will continue to be an advocate for our businesses in our city taking precautions to keep their employees safe and to keep their customers safe. We continue to put out information to help our businesses do that. Some businesses are doing better. All in all, I think our businesses are doing pretty well. If there is a weakness, it may be in the wearing masks. So if you go in and you look at social distancing and things that businesses are requiring, I think they're doing a pretty good job. We're going to have an effort starting next week where we're really going to promote the use of masks, and it'll be around doing your part to keep Arlington strong. and we're going to push out to our members and to businesses signs and other things that they can put into their business encouraging their customers to wear masks. As you can imagine, it's been an incredibly challenging time for our businesses in Arlington. The COVID-19 crisis has had a huge negative economic impact. Our businesses are doing the best they can to, I think, keep their employees safe and their customers safe, and at the same time, keep their door open and be able to keep the economy moving forward. It's an incredibly challenging balance, but COVID-19 is not going away. It's going to be with us. We're going to have to learn to coexist with this virus, and we're a believer that wearing masks is one of those good preventative measures that will help us keep our economy open and growing. So you're going to see more from the Chamber coming out, doing what we can, which is to advocate for the use of masks.
Thank you. Appreciate that answer. And we'll go right to our next question from Steve, who's in Southeast Arlington. Hey, Steve, thanks for waiting. What's your question for us?
My question may have evolved based on listening to a lot of the comments, but let's start with the face masks. I am 75 years old, but I'm not in any of the risk categories. I'm in perfect health. I'm a self-reliant, self-responsible individual. And if I go somewhere, I evaluate my environment, myself, and if I don't feel comfortable, I'll leave. And I can vote with my dollars in terms of the companies, the restaurants, and whatever that I support. I don't want the government, the mayor, or anyone else telling me I need to wear a mask. I'm a responsible individual, and I take great care to stay healthy and strong. And I have the right to walk out of a business if I don't like what they're doing, with or without a mask. I do not want the government telling me how I've got to dress when I leave my house. Whenever the government, in my 75-year life, whenever the government has gotten control of something, it got messed up eventually. We have experts out there, for example, that say the mask is good, the mask is bad. We can find experts to support whatever our position is. My position, and I sent the mayor a letter today, he probably hadn't had a chance to read it, but that's my strong opinion. Let us be responsible and then I heard 27 deaths in Arlington, and that's terrible. 40% of them come from the old folks' homes, if I'm saying it correctly. So that would leave about approximately 15, 17 people that died in Arlington. I'd ask how many of them were first-line responders, police, hospitals, that are more exposed, and we're down to basically a handful of people out of a city this big, and the whole city is being turned upside down. How many people are suffering from depression, fighting in the home, divorces, unemployment, money problems because of what is statistically in Arlington, based on what I heard in this phone call, start with the 27, subtract 40%, and we're investing so much into something so small. I bet since this virus began, there's been more deaths on the highway and things like that. The other comment that I'd like to make, and I want to reiterate, let us be responsible. This is still America. I don't know how long that'll last, but as of today, it is still America, the land of the free. Let us be free and make decisions and vote every day with our dollars. If we don't like what's going on at the restaurant, don't go back. And we can do that. And the other comment I want to make is why at the government of any and all levels is not stressing the importance when we come in contact with the police to be respectful and follow orders. And if we have issues with being treated poorly, we can deal with them through the court system, and everybody's still alive. And not to resist, even if we're being taken advantage of or being treated unfairly, cooperate. Each of the things I've seen on the news shows at some point somebody stops cooperating and it winds up in a tragedy. Why is the government, starting with the mayor and working up to the president, not spending more time cautioning people to avoid a life and death situation by complying and paying attention and taking notes, and then take your complaint through the legal system and everybody gets to stay alive? Thank you. speak.
Appreciate you, Steve. Mayor, would you like to take Steve's comments?
Yeah, I'll begin, and I think this will be a good one, too, for the city manager to enter in, but let me start here by saying that, Steve, that is the Arlington way, for us to be making responsible decisions and working together and caring for your fellow citizens. And so, yes, we are very much trying to encourage our citizens to make that choice. And I can say that the thing that's disappointing is that you can hear anything you want to hear from a medical professional on TV right now. We are relying on responsible medical professionals here, and between wearing the mask to keep from infecting someone else and doing your social distancing and by hygiene, we're able to fight this virus. And so, yes, we are encouraging, we are using every communication we can to encourage people to use these three methods here to fight this virus. And so I hear you loud and clear about the government not trying to get into your life. Now, with that, you had other comments, and I'll let the city manager there finish out anything he'd like to say there on this.
This is Trey Yelverton, city manager. Mayor, I just follow up you and Steve's comments a little bit. We're really encouraging people to educate themselves and to use their wallets and their feet as it relates to supporting businesses. And we definitely support, if you see something that's concerning, not following COVID compliance standards, we ask you to go to the next store, the next restaurant. We cannot effectively police 1,400 businesses and all the places that people are in Arlington. So we need you to do that. It's not something we're going to inject our police department into. We will go out and check on certain hot spots at different places where we might need to remind a manager about the kinds of things they could do to earn your business. But it's really incumbent upon them to earn your business. The same way that they have a product or have a meal that you like, they also need to convince you that they're doing it in a way that's keeping them and their families safe. So that is our way and our approach, and we'd encourage you to continue to do what you were suggesting there.
Appreciate the answers. Thanks so much, and thank you for your question, sir. We'll be getting to our next one from Amanda right here. Reminder that many of you have pressed 0 to submit questions. Stand by. Thanks so much to those of you who've submitted. I'll ask everybody who's on the line, please limit your questions and comments to just one question if you could moving forward. We got about 22 minutes left, and we'd like to take as many questions as we possibly can in that time. Amanda, you're live. Thanks, and go right ahead.
Hi. Mine's more of a comment, kind of like Steve's. Look, some of us can't wear masks, so I would like it if you guys didn't make it a requirement. It's not that I don't want to wear it, it's that I have panic attacks if I try and wear it. So I'd like you guys to keep that in mind. There's people out there who physically cannot wear a mask.
Thank you for your comment, Amanda, and we certainly take those kinds of things into account. It's not mandatory here in Arlington. The masks are not mandatory. Other types of face coverings are also acceptable if you feel like you can do something like that comfortably, but we appreciate your comment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Amanda. We've got our next one coming here from Dave. Dave, thanks so much for waiting. What's your question?
Yes. I want to thank the fire chief for arranging for me to get the virus test. I'm 81 years old. I had open heart surgery here in the last few months. I had the test, and the test came back negative. But since that time, it's been reported on the media that particular test is only reliable 50% of the time. I confirmed this with my cardiologist. He said the same thing. So my question is, should I go back and get retested again, or is there another test that's more reliable? And if
Dave, this is Don Kraut. I'm sorry.
And should I get that test again, that more reliable test, and where do I go to get it?
Dave, this is Don Kraus. I'm your fire chief, and I'm glad to hear that we were able to help you with your first test. I think the issue is that to be tested, you should be symptomatic, and it sounds to me like you're doing fairly well. I would consult with your doctor if you want to pursue another kind of test, but the relative accuracy of the test we use are pretty high. So I think you're in a fairly good position, but your own personal health and welfare are your personal decisions, and I certainly support whatever direction you want to go with that. Good luck to you, and if you need our help, give us a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate your comments. Let's get Leslie up live next. Leslie, thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, I'm one of the people that's in the hospital battling this virus. My question is, I'll try to make it as short as possible. My daughter called me Wednesday. She went to her home and came back to my son's home. She had her children in the car, her child, and my grandchild in the car. A police officer followed her into to my son's home and knocked on the window. When she rolled down the window, she wasn't doing anything. She just rolled down the window. He had a gun drawn at her. And my grandchildren were crying, and she was scared. What are you doing to these police officers to make them realize not every situation requires for your gun to be drawn? First of all, I don't think the gun should be drawn unless they feel that their lives are threatened. She's a woman in a car with 2 children. She didn't do anything but rolled down the window. He knocked on the window with his gun, with the butt of his gun. That was not necessary. And he scared her and both of my grandchildren. I asked her if she got this officer's name or badge number, but she was so afraid she didn't. What are you doing to these police officers? And he was a Caucasian officer, and she's an African American woman. I don't want my children to be another statistic. So what are these officers doing in Arlington, or what are you all doing to these officers to make them realize not every situation calls for a gun to be drawn?
Leslie, thank you for your question. This is Jaime Ayala, the interim chief over the police department currently. And the first thing I would ask is, if this occurred, we want to know about it. And just because she didn't get the name, we would be able to, if you could give us the location, the date, and the time, we would be able to look it up and then pull the body-worn camera or the in-car DVD camera. I will say that in Arlington, we don't have a curfew. We've never installed a curfew during COVID or even in previous years for any of the other reasons we see curfews. And so I want to know where exactly this occurred and the date and time. And if you can reach out to us and give us that information, we will look into it. Our officers are only allowed to draw their weapons and use that level of force when certain active resistance is existing for them to be able to address a threat. And in this circumstance, as you described it, it would be highly inappropriate for an officer to draw their weapon and tap on the glass with the butt of their gun, because that's not trained at all. But we can look at the body-worn camera if you can provide us a date and time, and we would be happy to get back with you on it.
And I would just follow up, Ms. Green. This is Trey Yelverton, City Manager. I think we can get your contact information through this, and we will follow up with you tomorrow to get that information as best we can. And as the Chief indicated, we should be able to pull some video evidence of that interaction and break down what happened and address it as would be appropriate. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Certainly hope you feel better.
Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate you being on. And if you'd like to leave any additional information, you can stay on for this next 15 minutes here. You'll have an opportunity to leave us a voicemail message, and feel free to do so, but we do have your contact information so that we can reach back out to you. Thank you for bringing that up in our forum. Very much appreciate it. We've got our next one coming here from Ruth. Hey, Ruth, thank you for waiting. Looks like you want me to read your question. Happy to do that. She's asking, questioning how correct the statistics are. She got tested 9 days ago and still has not gotten any results from her COVID test. Thanks very much, Ruth, for that question. Let's see, should we go to Fire Chief Krausen for that one?
Yes, thank you, Ruth, for the question. I'm assuming you were tested by the City of Arlington with this test. I'm going to give you a phone number to call, 817-459-5500. You can ask for me or Assistant Chief Gerald Randall, and we'll run your case down to see whether or not your test results are back. This is a highly unusual result here, and so I certainly want to know about it and want to look into it for you. So please give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that answer. Thanks so much for the question. We've got Mary coming live next. Hey, Mary, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to say that the vast majority of medical experts agree that the single most important factor in mitigating the spread of coronavirus is the wearing of masks. Now, that being said, I listened to a gentleman earlier who said that he does not want to be required to wear a mask, that he's a responsible person, he can make that decision for himself. Well, not all people are responsible. And codes and ordinances to protect the health and welfare of our general society. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a problem, one, with any merchant, any store, such as Costco, saying you must wear a mask when you shop there. I think it's for the protection of everyone. There are many cancer patients and other immunocompromised people out there who need to be protected. I personally think it's and very irresponsible for people to go into these stores, grocery stores and other places, and not wear a mask. It is for the protection of those vulnerable people in our society, and it is something that is very important. So I do want to commend Mayor Williams for his interest in trying to see if the governor would allow for the masks to be mandated. I know that's probably not going to happen, but I do appreciate his effort on our behalf. So that's basically what I have to say.
Thank you, Mary. And I'll take your – oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's Michael Jacobson. I jumped the gun probably, but I'm going to go ahead and respond. The President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. And as I mentioned earlier, we're doing what we can to advocate for our businesses in Arlington to protect their customers and their employees and use all the measures of social distancing, washing hands, and wearing masks. We'll keep doing that, and we're going to raise the bar on our communication on masks next week. I can tell you, as the CEO of the Chamber, my wife and I have been to several businesses, and I'm not going to call the businesses out. Two of them were restaurants. One of them was retail. We pulled up into the parking lot. We surveyed the situation. We didn't even get out of our car. We turned around and left because we did not feel that the right sort of precautions were being taken. What I didn't do and what I would recommend doing is something you should do. So if you go to a business and you don't see them doing the right thing, yes, don't shop, turn around and leave. But the other thing you can do is you can write that establishment an email, a letter, you can call them, and you can let them know that you're not shopping there or eating there or doing business there because you don't believe that they are adequately taking care of your safety. So one of the things I would tell you is, yes, you don't have to, use the power of the dollars and turn around and walk out, but also communicate with them, because they might notice it over time on their financials. But if you call them and let them know, I think that's just another important thing. But we'll continue to advocate for people wearing masks. The other thing that was on here that I don't know if it was mentioned, we'll also try our best to pull together a list of businesses that are meeting the different requirements so that we can have that on our websites. That information would be available to people. That's something else we can do. We've pulled some of that information together in a survey, but as you can imagine, with the number of businesses in Arlington, that's a pretty complicated task. But I really do appreciate the message, and I absolutely understand the concern.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate your comments, Mary. Thanks for joining our forum, and thank you again to Michael Jacobson, our chamber president. We're going to get our next question up here from Barbara next. Barbara, thank you so much for waiting. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Barbara. My question is, as you monitor the rate of the COVID increase, at what point or time, if you look at considering having another stay home to slow down the rise again?
Barbara, this is Don Krause. I'm going to go ahead and try to answer that question. We've been watching the virus for the last 100 days, and we've been monitoring it with not only ourselves, but in partnership with Tarrant County Public Health, Dallas-Fort Worth Hospital Council, the state, and even the nation. And I can tell you right now, in Arlington, the hospital capacity is very good. And in fact, the COVID issue is nowhere approaching any potential hospital surge issues in Arlington, in Tarrant County, and most of North Texas. Now, we don't control the virus. We're dealing with it. And I can tell you the current situation is relatively stable while we are seeing an uptick, but we have more than enough capacity in our hospital system to deal with the issues we're seeing. I would say that if we ever found ourselves in a situation, which I don't believe will be the case, that the hospital system's not able to sustain our current issue, then some decision making will occur. But I think we are very far away from that sort of situation. And in fact, I'm very hopeful that a vaccine will be here by the end of the year, or slightly after the end of the year, that we'll be able to vaccinate our population, which the Arlington Fire Department would be a part of, to stop the spread of the virus permanently. So don't see it in the future. The indicators right now are that's not going to happen, but we're not afraid to make that decision if conditions change so drastically that we had to. We provide regular briefings to the council and others, including our community, so we're staying on top of it for you. Thank you for the question.
And thank you again, Chief, for the answer. We'll get our next one up here from Joan, and just a quick mention here. We've got less than 10 minutes left in our forum. If you'd like to give us your email address to get email updates from the City of Arlington moving forward, this is your last opportunity to do so during this live forum. Press 7 on your phone right now if you'd like to get email updates from the city, and we'll grab your email address and make sure we keep you better updated moving forward. And a quick reminder to those of you who were submitting questions, if you didn't get a chance to submit a question, or if we don't answer your question by the end, I encourage you to stay on the line at the end of the forum and leave us a voicemail message with your name, your contact information, your question or concern, so that we can reach back out to you in coming days. Let's get Joan up next. Hey, Joan, thanks for waiting. What's your question for us?
I'm calling from a assisted living facility in Plano, which was way ahead of this situation because they had gone through a flu session several years ago and were prepared. And our people who serve us are wearing masks. We are wearing masks when we go out of our room. We are being served in our room. And just now, 2.5, 3 months after shutdown here, we are going back in the dining room, sitting at one person per table, being served in a total of 8 to 10 people in a large room. And we are very proud that we have no active cases. My problem and the reason I'm calling may be a little not specific for the program as it's stated, but I have not been contacted for the census, and I don't know how to get a hold of those folks. Does anyone have access to a place I could call or email to get the census form?
Hi, Ms.
Thank you so much.
This is Jennifer Wickman with the city. So I would suggest that if you haven't received anything from the Census Bureau, that you go to their website, which is 2020census.gov, and there's a selection on there to fill out to start the questionnaire, and then if you don't have a census ID, you can click on another button there and they will help you. But I would encourage everyone on the call, including Ms. Howell, to please make sure that you fill out the census and get that back. Those are really important information for the city to have. It determines so much about our future, from the funding we get for human service programs to who represents us in Austin and in Washington. So please take some time to fill that out. We would really appreciate it.
Just want to make sure. Thank you for the program, and thank you for calling me. And I've been wearing masks my whole nursing life. I can't understand why anybody worries too much about that. Thanks, very much. And I miss Arlington. I live in Plano now, but they are very wonderful people here at the senior center. But I will say one thing about this place. They are staffed by young women from... Yes?
Joan, I'm sorry to cut you off. We've only got just 4 minutes left, and we'd like to get to some more questions. I just wanted to make sure, were you able to write down all the information that Jennifer gave you?
Yes, I've got that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joan. All right, let's get another quick question in here. We've got Pamela up live next. Hey, Pamela, go ahead.
Thank you. My grandson is currently going to private school, and we were considering moving him from private school into the Arlington Independent School District this coming school year. I went on the Arlington Independent School District website to see if there was some information about their intentions and how they were going to go about protecting the kids, if they were going to have the kids come into the classrooms or go with the online curriculum. And I didn't find any information there. I did dial the number on the website, but no one answered the phone. And I just wanted to know, do y'all have any updated information? Because, if I need to keep them in private school, I will, but I wanted to get some information so that I could make a well-rounded decision before the last minute.
Pamela, this is Don Krausen. We'll take your information. We've got your phone number, and I'll make sure that there's a proper connection with the Arlington Independent School District, and we'll get you the information you need. Thank you for the call.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Chief. And let's go ahead and wrap up here. We are just about out of time in our hour. I'd like to give the mayor a moment to offer any closing comments that he has, but a quick reminder here that if you didn't get a chance to get your question answered and you need it answered, stay on the line, leave a voicemail message. Make sure you leave your name and contact information as well as your question or concern. And likewise, if you didn't get a chance to get at your email address, you can stay on the line, leave that in the voicemail as well. Make sure you spell it clearly if it's at all hard to understand, and additionally leave your name as well. Thanks everybody for joining us.